Okay, I wanted to shoot this short video here so that I can make a better point about the dashboards. So I made a post on a group on Facebook talking about how people, when they do the body swaps, they basically just drop the body on top of the dashboard of the donor car. And it's like, well, why can't we just spend a little extra time and either make the dashboard fit the body of the old car, or make the electronics and HVAC and gauges fit of the donor car fit the old car's dashboard. So here's what I wanted to point out. So this is 2001 Honda Civic. This is my donor car. And so here is where the windshield came to. That's where the dashboard ended, right here. So you had from here to about right there was dashboard. So we're talking roughly 14 inches. This gauge cluster is huge, kind of. Now, I've already made the modifications, some of the modifications. You see how the way it sticks out. Well, I've cut this panel here, and I just need to come up with a flat piece of plexiglass, acrylic, drill 2 holes in it, make it a little bit wider, and then I'll paint the corners black so you can't see anything. And then that'll be done. The HVAC system in the original Civic dashboard was attached to the top of the dash, or the inside top of the dash, and it went over this opening here. So this is your heater box, and it just sat on top of that when the dashboard bolted down. This is your defroster. This is your other dash vents. I need to change that actuator before I get this stuff bolted down. But anyway, so the problem is to fit all this into that car is going to be an issue, and I will show you. Okay, this is the Rambler dash, and this is roughly where, about like that. It's about how it's going to sit in the body, and this is where it's going to sit here in the Honda, roughly. So it'll clear the column, and the gauges will fit behind it. Now that lens is in the way, but that's basically, they'll fit behind it. So you have plenty of space here. You have plenty of space over there, where you can put the aftermarket bullet style outlets. And here I can actually cut all this out. This is the radio delete panel. That's where the ashtray goes, you know. Cut all this out, weld in a piece of metal, just make it flat. And I can put 2 more of those vents up there, and I can put the Civic HVAC controls in there, where they're actually supposed to go over here. But anyway, so that can be done. The hard part's going to be, in my case, and maybe, I'm sure lots of others, but in this case, is that opening right there. So this is where the cowl comes to. And given the arc, it's going to come right to the back of that there, which is probably going to be okay. My plan was to put a piece of metal on top of it and then weld pipe to it and run it to the ducts over here. The defrosters themselves have their hoses that go to them. So it should work out. And then when it's all said and done, all of this from here back is going to be covered. That'll be completely sealed off since it's open to the inside of the car. It'll work. It's going to be more work, some engineering, but it'll work. And you can see from there to there is almost 9 inches. And yes, I double checked. It really is 9 inches. So you got like 14 inches versus 9 inches. That's a lot to deal with. So the car, here you have the Honda dash, and it's kind of hard to hold with one hand, and I can't really hold it up, but you see how wide that is. It'd be sitting in your lap. So a lot of people will mount these things like so, I don't know if it's just intimidation, because I mean, that's a lot of work and it's a lot of things to try to figure out. I get it. But let's see, this is supposed to go in at an angle. Hold on. So this is the Honda Dash. And it's about impossible to hold into position because I only have one hand. But a lot of people will actually drop the bodies down like that and cut, you know, half of the dashboard out. Or they'll even leave the dashboard and they'll cut the body out to fit around it. So you lose your defroster and you lose all this. You lose your wipers. And to me, it doesn't make any sense why. It's like, either you could cut this down and make it fit this car and try to figure out what to do about the defroster. I mean, you can use those vents again and just turn them to point them up at the glass. You could trim the sides a bit. I've done that before. Putting newer dashboards in old cars, you know, I'm not opposed to it. But it's just, they don't take the time. They leave the dashboard intact and they fit the car around the dash. And to me, it should be the other way around. They should be fitting the dash to the car or fitting the parts to the dash. And I mean, that's just my opinion. But I'm not trying to call anybody out. I'm not going to post any pictures of examples because I don't want people thinking, well, this is what I'm talking about and this sucks. I'm not saying any of it sucks. I'm just saying that it just seems to me like in the long run, even in the short run, it'd be better to fit the dash to the car or fit the stuff to the dash rather than fit the car to the dash, if that makes any sense. You know, then you can have wiper blades, then you can have defroster. You know, my preference, then I still have the original dashboard just with all the extra stuff built into it. And there's some things you can do that I know are daunting, and electrical is like the big thing. Everybody say hi to Jinx. Jinxie. He's our last one left. He's the young one. So here are the Honda HVAC controls. There's your four-way switch. It's just a simple hole, square hole. Could be cut anywhere, no big deal. Whoops. And this is super simple. 3 holes. I could take a couple machine screws and weld them to the back half, like I already figured I'd put them over here. Weld the machine screws back here with a little plastic tubing spacer, aluminum spacer, whatever, little piece of tubing, friggin' fuel line, and then bolt the switch in there with a nut. You know, I'd probably use a nylock, and boom, there you go. You got those 3 buttons right there in that position, or you could put them over here. This one would be the harder one because in the Civic, it sits like that. So it kind of tends to curve towards the inside. And so you could easily mount it kind of at an angle and have it sit flat right there. Boom. You'd never see the back of it. And for the most part, you never know, except that all the off position would be, you know, at 12 o'clock. And now they'd be at 9 o'clock. But it could still work. It wouldn't be hard to do. So this is the HVAC panel for like an 03 CRV. If it's just a matter of repinning the connector using the CRV connector with the Civic wires, I mean, that really isn't any big deal. Those 3 buttons are integrated into the 3 knobs on this panel. So, I mean, it'll do away with that extra thing and it'll fit the dashboard better. It looks better. I mean, I just need to look at some schematics first before I commit to it, and then I think we're doing okay. But that's in the future. You can fit it. And like I said, you know, the hoses and the tubes coming over. Okay. Headlight switch I don't have to worry about anymore because it's here. I have to use all this if I want to keep the intermittent wipers and all that stuff. Yeah, wiper switch doesn't have to be there anymore. It's here. You know, heat controls down there. This car, I'm going to have to use the console because of all the shifter and stuff. I think it'd be way more work to try to get rid of that, which I could, and I could go to a bench seat. But that really isn't a deal breaker. Console goes in, it gives me cup holders. It all fits. I'm actually going to take that opening there where the, you know, your little pocket to put crap in, that's going to get plated, and the window switches are going to go in there because I am going to use the Honda window motors in this. But I could easily tie this dashboard to that, and I have a cruise control switch over here somewhere, and it's the same opening that that four-way switch is in, but there's actually a spot in it, a little panel that goes between the Honda dash and the console. So I tie all that in together, the cruise control switch goes into that blank, and boom, there you go, it's located. The worst thing I'm going to have to do, especially with the window switches, is extend the wiring. And if you do one wire at a time and take your time, we're talking maybe a couple hours, you know, it'd be really hard to screw it up. You know, you could even write everything down. Okay, I put a piece of blue wire in the spot where there was a white wire with an orange tracer. You know, but it's not that hard to do. And again, I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad for not doing it, but that was just the point I was trying to make. It's like, well, why don't we just do this instead of dropping the body on top of the dash? That's all I was trying to say.